What's going on, everyone? Today we are talking Dynasty rookie running backs, probably my favorite conversation on the entire show. I love talking Dynasty. I love talking running backs. And today we have the best of the best. We are talking about the top 10 running backs in a tier list. Before we get into it though, if you guys could subscribe to the channel, it is the #1 way to support me. It's totally free. You could always change your mind later, and I would appreciate it so much. Either way, I do not want to waste your guys' time. Well, let's hop right into it with our first player, and that should be no surprise to anyone who watched the draft. It's Bijan Robinson. Bijan Robinson, the best running back in this entire class, and it is now close. Probably the best running back in the last 5 years outside of Saquon Barkley in 2018. Other than that, he's better as a prospect than Jonathan Taylor. He's better as a prospect than Breece Hall. That is why he's already ranked as the #1 running back in all of Dynasty over on Keep Trade Cut, and it's not even particularly close. The only two players that he is behind in Dynasty right now, and that's it, this is at any position in non-superflex leagues, is Justin Jefferson and Ja'Marr Chase, and these are two of the best players in their primes and very, very young. Bijan is only behind them, ahead of guys like Patrick Mahomes, Breece Hall, CeeDee Lamb, AJ Brown, and it makes sense. Bijan Robinson, one of the best running back prospects coming out, the only player in the PFF era to have over 100 missed tackles in a season with 104. He goes 8th overall, getting phenomenal draft capital, ending up on the Atlanta Falcons, a team that knows how to get the most out of the running back position with Arthur Smith. I mean, we saw Tyler Algier have 4.9 yards a carry last season. Caleb Huntley have 4.8 yards a carry last season. They have a good offensive line, and again, Arthur Smith knows how to use these running backs and knows what an impact a great running back has on the team. I mean, he's coming from the Titans with prime Derrick Henry. He sees the impact. He knows how to get the most out of these running backs. And that's why he went out and drafted Bijan Robinson 8th overall when there were great players still on the board. I mean, we're talking Jalen Carter still on the board. We're talking Christian Gonzalez still on the board. They needed to address defense, and yet they go out and draft Bijan Robinson. Maybe not the best pick from an NFL perspective, but from fantasy football, you couldn't ask for much more than this. Maybe his receiving work might be a little handicapped with Desmond Ridder, somebody who can run the football, but that is the only gripe. Moving on, we do have Jahmyr Gibbs in a tier of his own. I think Bijan Robinson in a tier of his own, and Jahmyr Gibbs in a tier of his own as well. Jahmyr Gibbs was arguably the biggest surprise in the entire NFL draft. I would probably say he was the biggest going at 12. I was shocked to hear his name called when it was, simply because people are expecting him to go in the early to mid to late 20s, maybe even the second round. But I was reading reports about this because I was super interested in why Jahmyr Gibbs went 12, why the Lions felt they could not wait till 18 to get him. Apparently, after Bijan was picked, tons and tons of teams were trying to trade up to around where the Jets were picking to try and get Jahmyr Gibbs, because after that, the elite talent at the running back position would be gone. Zach Charbonnet, another great running back, but somebody who was more of a second round player, whereas these NFL teams viewed Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson as a 1A, 1B type of thing, where once Bijan was gone, these teams realized that they wanted to get Jahmyr Gibbs. They needed Jahmyr Gibbs, and that's why the Lions end up taking him. And I think this is a really good landing spot for Jahmyr Gibbs, especially considering, I mean, for one, DeAndre Swift is out. He is done. He is traded to the Eagles. I do still have to talk about that. I got to talk about that soon. Either way, Jahmyr Gibbs replacing DeAndre Swift, and now it's just him and David Montgomery. And well, yes, David Montgomery is a very accomplished back in his own right. He is no Jahmyr Gibbs going 12th overall. He is no Jahmyr Gibbs as a pass catcher. He is no Jahmyr Gibbs as a player. And I like David Montgomery, but I love Jahmyr Gibbs now, going 12th overall. Not only that, Jahmyr Gibbs, 4.36 speed. This is somebody who is very quick. This is an offensive line that is phenomenal. I mean, we're talking about a top 5 offensive line in the NFL. You got Decker, you got Sewell, you got Ragnow. I mean, what more can you ask for in an offensive line? That's why I do love Jahmyr Gibbs here. Not only that, this is my favorite part about Jahmyr Gibbs. Jared Goff has been arguably one of the best quarterbacks for supporting great running backs in years past. Look at Todd Gurley. Look at Jamal Williams. Every single year, Jared Goff has supported running backs to enormous fantasy success. Jahmyr Gibbs should be no different in this offense. And that's why I do have Jahmyr Gibbs as my #2 running back. And now, I've already kind of had him at my 102, but I was debating it for a while. Now he's almost certainly my 102 in non-superflex leagues. Moving on though, I do have Devon Achane, and that's simply because the team he landed on was the absolute perfect team for what Achane is as a running back. I mean, what do you guys think when you look at Achane? Speed, 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 speed. This guy has speed for days. Running the fastest time of the combine for a running back at 4.32. That is extremely fast at the running back position. What do Shanahan-style offenses value from the running back position? Speed, 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 speed. You have McDaniels here coming from the Shanahanian tree. He loves speed. He was vouching for Achane heavy in the 3rd round, and they go out and draft him. This running back room is not great either. You have Raheem Mostert, a borderline 31-year-old running back who almost retired last season due to neck injuries. And while Raheem Mostert actually did have a surprisingly productive season this last season, I mean, realistically, how many more years can you expect that from Mostert? Probably this is his last year, if anything. And then you have Jeff Wilson Jr., who also had a decently productive season, was an undrafted pickup mid-season for the Dolphins. Not somebody they were clamoring over. I mean, realistically, they wanted Chase Edmonds, but now they bring in the guy that they wanted all along in Devon Achane. Somebody who, yes, he might not handle a bulk of the workload, which is the main concern with him, but I think he will be heavily involved on passing downs, and Tua is not a quarterback who's going to run the ball. I don't think he's ever had over 150 rushing yards in a season in his entire career. So Achane is going to be pretty successful in that regard, and I think overall Achane a great running back, somebody who I wasn't that high on in the pre-draft process, but just lands on the perfect team for him. Next up, we got Zach Charbonnet, and this might seem a little high for Zach Charbonnet, and I understand that. I think I did overreact initially to my draft capital with Zach Charbonnet. I mean, on the list I'm looking at right now, I have Zach Charbonnet as 4th in this tier, and now that I'm breaking over, I think Charbonnet should be 2nd on this tier, simply because the draft capital was too high, and this is somebody who is still projected to be a great running back at the NFL level. First of all, he goes to a pretty good team with a pretty good offensive line in the Seahawks, and I know they have Kenneth Walker. But the one thing I will say about this situation is that they probably will be operating as different running backs. I mean, Ken Walker, more the ground and pound, long play type of running back, whereas Zach Charbonnet might be operating more as that pass catching in between the tackles type of running back, which I think could result in a 60-40 split for them. And Ken Walker probably will be getting 60%, Zach Charbonnet 40%, but even still, I think that is fine. If Zach Charbonnet is getting this 3rd down work, potentially some of the touchdown work as well, there is going to be plenty of touchdowns to go around in this offense, considering how good this offense should be next year. I mean, you have Geno Smith, the quarterback, who I know historically has not been great, but last year threw for 30 touchdowns. The wide receiver core gets a pretty massive upgrade. This offense should be able to put up a lot of points, which I think does bolster the case for Charbonnet to at least have 5 or 6 total touchdowns this upcoming season. Not only that, if Ken, I know this is kind of a hypothetical, but if Ken Walker was to go down, Zach Charbonnet would be the running back 1 in this offense. At the running back position, a position that injuries happen so frequently, I think it is fine to take a shot on Zach Charbonnet as my running back 4. I could see him as low as your running back 5, but I think running back 4 makes a lot of sense. Next up, I do have Kendre Miller, and I really like Kendre Miller coming out. I think he's somebody who showed a lot of flashes at the running back position. Yes, you know he's not going to be catching the ball at as high of a rate as someone like a Zach Charbonnet, someone like a Jahmyr Gibbs, but he still showed some level of pass catching. 5% of the team's target share, well, it's not great. It is fine-ish at the running back position. Again, not great, but gets the job done. This is somebody who goes to a mess of a running back room. Alvin Kamara might be out for the entire season via suspension or even prison time. And then you have Jamal Williams, somebody who was a great running back for the Detroit Lions, but probably only has a year or 2 left at the NFL level. He is going into his age 28 season, which is pretty old for a running back. And they do elect to draft Kendre Miller in the 3rd round, which is good draft capital for a running back. So overall, I really like the situation for Kendre Miller. I think he does find himself in an offense that doesn't really have an identity, and Kendre Miller could be that identity in the future. You have Derek Carr, a middling quarterback, somebody who did just support Josh Jacobs to a running back 3 season. So overall, I think Kendre Miller has the opportunity to be a good running back at the NFL level. That's why I do like him here. Either way, let's move on though into my last player in this tier, and that is Tyjae Spears. I think Tyjae Spears, not really the archetype of running back that Derrick Henry is, but at the same time, Derrick Henry is 29 years old, and the only other backup in this offense is Hassan Haskins. Now, I am not rooting on Derrick Henry's downfall. I love to watch Derrick Henry. But at the same time, Tyjae Spears is somebody coming into this offense where he could be the running back one this year if Derrick Henry goes down. Even if Derrick Henry does not go down, he is 29 years old. Realistically, how much longer does Derrick Henry have at the NFL level? I would say a few years, but are those years all going to be productive? I personally don't think so. I think he has 1 or 2 great seasons left, and then boom, Tyjae Spears could come in and be the running back one right away when Derrick Henry does finally start to slow down. That's why I do like him here. He does also find himself in the 3rd round, which is good draft capital for a running back. Either way, though, let's move on to my next tier, and the start of this tier is Roschon Johnson, and I've been seeing a lot of buzz regarding Roschon Johnson, somebody who is beloved within the Dynasty community, and he does get decent draft capital going in the 4th round, but not like that, the team he ends up on is honestly pretty good landing spot-wise. I mean, this team does have Khalil Herbert, this team does have D'Onta Foreman, but at the same time, neither of these guys are bell cow running back ones, guys who for sure are going to take the reins of the offense. This is going to be a competition through and through for who is going to be the running back one in this offense. And the odds are it probably will be Khalil Herbert, but Roschon Johnson, it's not like he doesn't have a shot. It's not like he has a sub 10% chance. He probably has a 20 to 25% chance to be the RB1 in this offense almost right away, which I think when you're throwing darts at the board is a good enough opportunity at the position. That's why I have Roschon Johnson here, somebody who again is a dynasty darling. Not that I'm not high on him, I think he's going to be a good running back, but I think the backfield is a little bit crowded, and you're never going to see Roschon Johnson as a pass catcher in this offense simply because Justin Fields is never going to check it down. Either way, let's move on to my next running back, and that is Chase Brown. I think Chase Brown actually finds himself in one of the best situations, but the problem is he goes in the 5th round. I mean, he is drafted to the Cincinnati Bengals, who are in a really confusing, kind of similar to the Saints type of situation, but probably even better for Chase Brown than the Saints. I mean, for one, you have Joe Mixon's pending legal troubles. We have no idea if he's going to be going to jail. We have no idea what's going to be happening with Joe Mixon. I mean, he could easily not play the entire NFL season. But other than that, they let Samaje Perine walk to the Broncos. So other than that on the depth chart, it's Travion Williams and Chris Evans. Travion Williams is a very, very tiny running back who came out a couple of years ago, has been in the league for 4 years now, and yet has never received any serious play time. Similar thing with Chris Evans, he already is 25 years old, but only been in the league for 2 years, I believe, and really hasn't done anything besides return punts for the team. So I believe Chase Brown could step in and be a good running back for this team in Joe Mixon's stead. We really don't know who the running back 2 for this team is going to be outside of Joe Mixon. These last 2 guys I'm going to talk about together, and that is Isreal Abanikanda and Tank Bigsby. These guys find themselves in pretty poor situations because there are star running backs right in front of them. But in Isreal Abanikanda's case, he is going to be coming in for an injured Breece Hall. Breece Hall might not come back to start the season, and Abanikanda, a home run hitter type of running back, somebody who can produce for you early on into the season. And that's why I think Abanikanda is worth a shot here in the mid-3rd round if you can get him there, but I wouldn't really want to be taking him in the 2nd round because Breece Hall will be the running back 1 in this offense, and then you have Tank Bigsby, somebody who is going to be most likely the 2nd running back behind Travis Etienne. He does get good draft capital, but the problem is, again, Travis Etienne is in this offense. He is almost certainly going to be the RB1. Tank Bigsby will be coming in, probably getting 4 or 5 carries a game, but you're pretty much just drafting a backup running back at this position. There really is no hope for him to be the RB1 aside from injury, whereas at least all these other players, the injuries either already happened or there is a chance for him to be the RB1 in their respective offenses. Either way though, guys, that's going to be it from me. Hope you did enjoy the video. If you did, go ahead and smash that like button. I'm answering every single comment. So if you guys have any questions, let me know, and subscribe to the channel. Turn the notification bell on. It is the #1 way to support me. It's completely free, and you can always change your mind later. With that though, guys, as always, have a good day, a good night, and a good life.